First episode of our Fireside Chat. We have a very special guest today, Adina O'Neill, who is a returning guest for us. We've had her on our show, Fireside Chat, as well as our Fiery Embers before. But if you don't know Adina, she is the founder and the head coach of Team Be Real. She is an author. The title of the book is Forward is a Pace, and we're going to be talking about that quite a bit today. She is also a marathon swimmer, which means she is swimming for a very long time. And oftentimes she's done it in the ice cold. So she's one of those athletes that you have seen where they carve out the ice, you jump in the water and you swim. Not something I don't think I'll be finding myself doing, but she does do that. And since Adina is a swimmer and very awesome at it, I want to make sure I mention that if you use the code RTMAG24, so that's RTMAG24 at blue70.com, you will get 20% off of your purchase. In addition to that, our Everyday Athlete Podcast Network continues to grow. We have 7 shows under our umbrella today. And our next show for Beyond the Finish Line with Joe Harden will be at 4 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday, and he will be talking with Elliot Matson, the founder of Folklore Apparel. And then on Friday, Adam Lee of Community Trail Running and I will be returning with Food Fight Friday at the Aid Station, and that is at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So get a good 10-minute laugh in before your weekend starts. So without any further waiting, let's bring Adina O'Neill onto the show and start our fireside chat. Hey, Adina, how are you?
Hey, Jason, I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Long time no talk on the show, so it's great to be able to catch up now, and we've got a lot to talk about. First things first, congratulations on not only writing a book, but getting it out there, having it be seen and read by people. Take me through the thought process for why you wanted to write the book Forward is a Pace.
Well, thanks. It is great to be back. Always fun to hang out on the fireside chat for sure. The book was it was kind of came a little bit out of nowhere, but it started out as just kind of the idea of describing my journey from feeling like I never fit in to the transformation of becoming an athlete, a triathlete, a marathon swimmer, and even transforming into a coach who then wanted to help other athletes feel like they could fit in, and really empower just those non traditional athletes who don't really feel like they belong, that there is a place for them, and really send the message out that everybody, whether they're fast or slow or short or tall or old or young or whatever it may be, that there really is a spot for everyone, and to really just empower everyone to embrace their own pace, their own goals, and to go out there and chase whatever they're going for at their own pace, and to just kind of keep moving forward, which is where the idea of forward as a pace comes in. Of course, on the heels of the Olympics, we were all celebrating all these amazing athletes, and as we should, because I mean, I was glued to my TV for 2 weeks, and it is absolutely incredible to watch these achievements. But also to keep in mind that your achievements as kind of a non-traditional or everyday athlete, I know you guys love that phrase as well, they're so important, and they're not any less. They're maybe a little different, but there really is something to celebrate no matter what it is, that if you're out there and achieving your own extraordinary goals for yourself.
Yeah, one thing that didn't get a lot of coverage from my purview anyway was that in between the marathon, the men's and women's marathon run, that they opened up the marathon course overnight and about 20,000 people ran the marathon course between the two Olympic marathon runs, which is phenomenal. Like, that is so cool to be able to say, I ran the same course as gold medal, silver medal, and bronze medal winners, and the best in the world at the marathon. So, I mean, that's just really cool. Help me understand. So you talked about the progression from an athlete that didn't fit in to becoming a head coach, working with athletes that didn't fit in. But when did you think you wanted to write this book? Was it as an athlete who was like, man, I wish there were more resources and more people like me that I could see? Or was it as you were a coach and you were working with these athletes that you were seeking out the everyday athlete? Was it more, later or earlier on?
It was definitely later on. I mean, when I was an athlete, I was just trying to find my way. As I became a coach and then the leader of this team and growing my business and became more of an advocate, I've always said I had a loud mouth and it's finally kind of paying off. And it really, as I became a little more confident in myself as a coach, as a business owner, and people started to kind of thank me for saying, well, I'm glad you're speaking up, and I'm glad that you are advocating for us, and I feel empowered because you are a regular person and you're helping me just as a regular person kind of feel the same way that I can get out there and do this. And it wasn't something that I had thought about in the back of my head for a long time. It was a little comment here and there, that someone says like, "Oh, you should start a podcast. You should write a book." Like people tell you stuff, and I actually enjoy writing. I'm a numbers person. I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but my undergrad degree is actually in accounting. So I love numbers. And I never thought of myself as being very good with the written word. I could talk a lot, but I never thought of myself as a writer. And just as I started, through social media and through the Run Try Bike magazine and having the opportunity to start doing some writing, I found that I enjoyed that. So when someone said, "Oh, well, you should write a book," I was like, you know what? I really have enough information to write a book, enough stories, which, that's something that we've always connected on is how powerful just the stories are of the athletes that you meet. And,
Super powerful.
Right. I mean, I love all the stories that you guys share through your platform, and I love to. I've always loved to share athlete stories. People relate to them, right? They hear, they say, "Oh, well, that's like me," and you make those connections with people on a very personal level, and that's what helps people start to believe that they can actually do it.
Yeah, like whenever I talk to um, athletes that we're going to interview for stories on our website, or even when we talk to potential advertisers, I always use this example. I say 50,000 people run the New York City Marathon. There will be coverage of the top 10 women and the top 10 men. That leaves 49,980 other stories that are out there that aren't being told, and we want to tell them.
Yeah,
And whenever I say that, your reaction right there, that smile, that eye lift, open, that head nod, always happens. And it's because we are able to connect with people based on their stories and the obstacles that they've overcome, because we can relate to that more so than we can relate to a pace or a distance, right? I,
absolutely.
I, I run 100 milers. I've run 250 miler. Ohm just finished running Bigfoot 200. You do marathon swims, right?
Yeah,
It's hard for people to relate to those things if they don't do them. But if
right.
you tell them, like for me, if I tell people, look, I've had to deal with alcohol abuse, I've dealt with disordered eating, I have an issue with imposter syndrome, right? They can understand that connection and work it into their own life and then be like, oh shit, if this guy's doing this stuff or Adina's doing this stuff, then I can do it too. And I think that's where the idea of, the name of your team, Team Be Real, comes into play. It's where our vision and mission, where there's a spot that's starting line for everybody, and everybody comes into play because there is that correlation and that connection.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that too, because I've gotten some great feedback from about the book from people who've read it that talk about triathlon or swimming, but the comments that have struck me the most are the people who've come back and said who are not athletes, and they said, well, some of my friends purchased the book to be supportive. They're like, oh, I have a friend who wrote a book, like that's pretty cool, and some of them have come back to me and said, I never imagined that I was going to really impact me the way it had. It's like I'm just walking around in my everyday life going forward as a pace, forward as a pace, because it's the concept of you just have to keep making the next step. And in the book, I talk about, forward is not always moving forward. Sometimes forward is going sideways, even taking a step back or standing still, that it's just some type of progress, whatever that may be. And it can be anything for anybody. It's so individual to each person. But then I'm just walking around going, all right, I'm having a day. But forward is a pace. I'm just going to keep moving forward, whatever that means for them. So that has been far beyond my expectations, and probably what I'm most proud of is just hearing how people are relating it to their everyday lives. And I mean, I think you and I have talked about before how sports is such a metaphor for life, anyhow. So to hear that people are taking that message from the book is something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, when I have conversations with people, to your point about sports as a metaphor for life, right? Like I've said that I would hire endurance athletes to be partners in my business, to partner with
Mm.
me in anything when it comes to business, because they've gone through the hard stuff, they've pushed themselves, they've asked themselves, why am I still doing this? And they keep moving forward. But I do want to take this back to the book in real life as well as to this idea of sports. So I just finished running. Before I got out there for my run, I did a little warm up, and then I started running slowly, as warming up into the pace. Then I did the intervals, and then I did a cool down. What's the process for writing a book? What's the warm up, the main set, and the cool down?
Oh, I love that idea. That's a great question. Um, so I actually started and did wrote my book through a company called Belmont City Press, and they have a program because I am not a writer. I mean, I am a writer. I am a published author, but I didn't see myself as a writer. And very similar to the fact when you start training for a 5K or any type of road race or any type of swim or a triathlon, you don't know where to start and you need a plan, right? You might find a training plan online. You might use a coach who's going to tailor fit a plan to what's going to fit your life, but you need a plan. So I actually had this plan that I worked on with the publishers at Belmont City Press, and they literally set it out for me and said, okay, well, do these things to start. So that was kind of the warm up, right? I followed their plan and did some like warm up questions where they asked me a bunch of different questions and guided me along. So it helped me organize all my thoughts. And then from there, the main set is writing and writing and writing and writing and rewriting. And again, similar to a training plan, it's going to be molded, it's going to be changed. The beauty of working with a coach is they're going to see where you're at and say, oh, what about this piece? Or, they see you're advancing in one sport versus another, and they're going to change things and they're going to redirect you. And that was the same support that I got throughout this process when you went through a draft and said, oh, well, you talked a lot about private coaching here, but you didn't explain it at all. It's like we need to understand more about that. And so I got all that. Kind of the main set was really some interaction with the support team at Belmont City Press, who continually kind of just pulled it all out of me and said, all right, well, keep going, keep going, here's your next part and your next part. And then the cool down.
You can't possibly be in the cool down yet because you got to promote the book now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, well, now we're having fun. I feel like I skipped the cool down and went right to the race day, right? Well, we're going along still with the training plan analogy. You go, you do all your training, and then you come up to race day, and that's where you have all the fun, right? And you let it all loose, and you go and you celebrate and you smile and you high five everybody. And that's kind of where we are right now. Promoting the book, doing some book talks. I've already done one. I've got a couple more lined up. I did a book signing. Of course, in a true Adina style, we did a swim and sign.
That's
So,
cool.
we invited everybody to come swim with us, and a bunch of people swam, and then we, had a little book signing. So, and my publisher keeps reminding me, like, this is the fun. She's like, I hope you're having fun because this is the fun. And it absolutely is. God, all my friends and family who, helped me purchase the book, and it turned out, watching it like grow on Amazon to see, it's like, oh, people buying this, all of a sudden it hit number one bestseller. And you're like, this is just wild. This
That's
is
cool.
something that I never imagined. And again, it's like I followed the plan. I did what I was told. Like, I was always very coachable. My coach said to do something, I did it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. You want me to do this? I'm going to do this. So yeah, I don't know where the cool down actually is. Hopefully it's not going to cool down. It's a lot of fun, and it's something that, as a business owner, like, I'm always going to have, and I can always talk about it. And I can always, people ask me all the time about different things. Oh, well, what is coaching like, or what is your team like, what are the athletes like? I'm just like, oh, I wrote a book about it. I can sit and talk to you for hours and hours, or you can, go read the book if you want, get some advice for yourself along the way.
I think one of the things that's really cool about this whole idea is you didn't say it directly, but you as a coach had a coach, right? So your publisher is walking you through the process to get you from point A to point Z through this training plan. And so let that be a lesson for people too, right? Just because you know something doesn't mean you know everything about that something. And getting somebody else to help you out is tremendous in that scenario. Where can people buy the book? You mentioned Amazon. Where is that? Is that the best place for them to go?
Yep, you can go right to forwardisapacebook.com and it'll take you right to it.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Forwardisapacebook.com. We'll put that in the comment section as well when we post this live to Instagram as well as to our other platforms so people can find it. We mentioned the Olympics earlier, and one of the founding principles for our business was to help share more stories of women in sport.
Mhm.
And I came across this stat. I believe the number was that 65% of the medals were won by women for the US,
Ooh,
which is a tremendous number if you think about it. Two-thirds of the medals were won by women. I don't know if it was specifically gold medals or medals in total. But one of the things I noticed as I was watching the Olympics was how different every one of these women were. From Ilana Maher, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, on the rugby team, to Simone Biles, to
mhm.
Sha'Carri Richardson, to Katie Ledecky. I believe the synchronized diving team is Cook and Bacon, which is pretty damn funny and cool. But every one of these women look different, different body types, right, and everything else. How important of a message is that to you as an athlete who is talking about coaching athletes that don't fit that ideal athlete body type? How important was that for you to see?
It's there's almost no words to describe how important it is. And there have always been athletes with different body shapes, but it really seemed prominent, at least in my vision this year. And I don't know if that's because I'm surrounding myself by it and my eyes are a little more open to it. But it really seemed to be very prominent. There were discussions about, and I may forget the exact details. I think it was a weightlifter that didn't have a uniform that fit her. There were discussions about just all the different body types and shapes and sizes. And I'm still seeing on Instagram, people are sharing out, reels with images of all the different types of bodies, the shot putters, the weightlifters who are really solid and much larger, and, tiny little Simone Biles, who's this ginormous powerhouse at the same time. And everybody, just all the different shapes and sizes. of bodies that are out there. And you mentioned Alana Meyer with the rugby team. I mean, her page is extremely powerful. And I'm a former rugby player, but I did not know who she was until the Olympics. I was super excited to see rugby getting some people are like talking about rugby now. But her message is outstanding. I mean, she's very vocal about having been accused of looking so masculine, and yet she's wearing these very feminine dresses and saying that she feels feminine. So regardless of her broad shoulders, that it's how she feels, and that's what's important. And I just the messages that they're sending are just so powerful. We need more of it. We need to be saying it louder, repeating them as many times as we can, and really just encouraging all the women to support each other. That was another really big theme. Simone Biles and Jordan Childs, who are, bowing down to Rebecca Andrade at gymnastics, was amazing. They're
That
just
was
like,
cool.
Simone Biles is the GOAT.
Right.
She's undeniable.
She has
And
a chain that shows that.
yeah, she had the necklace. Um, but here she was. She's not too proud to look at someone who beat her and say, "Wow, she's awesome." She didn't, she didn't have sour grapes. She wasn't sad about it. She just like look at. She was awesome, and to see these women celebrating each other and supporting each other, no matter what, it was. We just need more of it. More, more, more.
Yeah, it was the whole idea of collaboration over competition is one of the things that we believe in at our company, and seeing Simone and Jordan do that for Rebecca Andrade at the Olympics was really cool. And then I did see a post recently. I believe it was a cyclist from Nigeria didn't have a bike, and the team from Great Britain loaned her a bike to compete at the Olympics, which is just amazing, right? Like, you could have looked the other way, could have ignored it, could have been like, you know what, your competition, so nah. But
Yeah.
instead, they provided her a bike so that she could compete. I mean, that's just really cool stuff, and I do hope and wish that more people would take that approach of collaboration over competition. Um, our friend Brittany Olson posted yesterday on Threads about this idea that people with negative comments when she posts about the fact that women were prohibited from running the Boston Marathon until not that long ago, people. It wasn't like from day one. And a lot of this stuff is still happening today, and it's about breaking through. And I just commented to her, and I was like, to your point that you just said, keep talking about it, keep pushing the envelope, keep making people feel uncomfortable. Let them know that this isn't going backwards. Like, this is here to stay, and it's going to keep progressing forward. And if Run, Try, Bike can be a part of that, then we want to be a part of that. And we're going to continue to be a part of that. So thank you for your insight on the Olympics and the body types that we got to see perform at the highest levels of sport. I hope that the people that were watching who thought, I can't do this stuff, it's not for me, took a different approach when it was all said and done and said, wait a minute, that person has a body like mine. I could do this. That person has a shape like mine. I could do this. Or that person has a skin color like mine. I can do this.
Absolutely.
And goes out there and performs. Um, One of the things that we had talked about in the pre-show was your coaching business with Team Be Real,
Yep.
and the athletes that you're working with. You did mention that you had your team race event already in Maryland
Yeah.
earlier this year, but you will be going swim to the moon
Yep.
in Michigan here real soon with 3 or 4 other athletes. What are the distances that are offered at the Swim to the Moon event, and how do you prepare for this?
So Swim to the Moon is great. They offer distances. This year, it's the first year they're doing a 2-day event. It's their 15th anniversary. So they kind of took out all the stops. Is that how the saying goes?
I believe
Um,
so.
and uh, and so they have anywhere from a half mile up to a 15K. So 15K is about 9 miles. And they've got races events on Saturday and Sunday. It's all swimming, and it's in a lake. And we actually just had they had an online race briefing today, which that's the first time I've ever done that. And kudos to their Epic Races for doing that, because it was so nice to be able to sit here and listen to the race briefing before I got there, so that's going to now help me pack my bag and prepare what I need to bring in advance, instead of doing it at the last minute and say, oh, I wish I had brought that, if you're coming from far away. We actually have one of the athletes I'm coaching is doing her first 10K swim. One is doing her first 5K swim. And I am signed up for the 10K and the 15K. So Saturday and Sunday,
Okay.
which my personal training did not go as planned this year. I had some family and life situations that came up, and the fact that the water in Boston has been super variable. In the month of July, we were ping ponging between 48 and 64 degrees.
That's a huge swing.
It's not supposed to be 48 in July. And so it's kind of hard to get your long swims in when you show up and it's 48 degrees and you're supposed to swim 5 miles that day.
Did you actually get in the water?
I did get, I did like a mile to 2 miles, depending. The 48-degree day, I did a mile. I was like, that was enough.
What are the temps up in Michigan going to be? Do you know?
They said 77.
Oh,
and I'm sitting here saying, oh my gosh, it's so hot. Like 77 is really warm for me,
yeah.
because the water temperature here never gets that high. I mean, if I'm swimming in a lake, it does, but I swim in the ocean. I mean, the ocean barely reaches 70 where I swim.
Yeah.
So, and it's been really cold. So we've been in like high 50s, low 60s. But there are people who are looking at that 77 and saying, I don't know if I'm going to wear a wetsuit or not. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's so individual. And that's one thing that, unfortunately, the world of swimming, wherever you're coming from, people are judging, well, you wore a wetsuit, you didn't wear a wetsuit. Look, get out and swim. I swim with a friend year round. She wears her wetsuit year round. I don't wear a wetsuit year round. Who cares? And she's faster than I am. So I see her. So I was like, well, you can be good at cold water like me, like good with the cold water, or you can be fast. Like, choose one. But at the end of it, she's not upset that I'm slower than her. I'm not upset that she's wearing a wetsuit. We're just getting out and swimming. It's just a matter of knowing the situations. The Olympics, there was a huge discussion aside from the water quality. I still can't believe they swam in the Seine. But there was a huge discussion about swimming in the current, because it's very different. And the pros most likely are having experience swimming with the current, against the current, cross current. But a lot of athletes, don't have that experience. And sometimes they show up, to an ocean swim, never having swam in the ocean, or an open water swim, never having swam outside of a pool.
Yeah.
And it really presents a danger for themselves and the other athletes. So if you're watching this, please do some open water training before you go out in the open water, for your own confidence, but also just for the safety of everybody involved.
And I will add this too, like, don't feel pressure to not wear a wetsuit if it makes you more comfortable to wear a wetsuit. And I will tell this story. I've done 8 Ironman events. I've started 9 of them, finished 8 of them. The very first Ironman I did not wear a wetsuit. It was optional. And I got swam over like within seconds of, it felt like the wetsuit athlete starting. And I realized, man, I'm never going to Kona. Like, I'm never going to qualify for Kona. I'm not within an earshot of Kona. So why would I not wear a wetsuit if it's going to help me swim faster, A, but B, be more efficient so I can ride and run, without being exhausted. And from that point forward, I've always worn a wetsuit in these events. And I don't feel bad about it, right? There's nobody else doing my race but me. So again, if it makes you feel comfortable to wear it, do not worry what Jane in Joplin, Missouri is going to think about you wearing a wetsuit. Do it. There's no reason to not do it. I was going to ask, you mentioned doing the 10K and then the 15K. And I was like, are those on the same day? Like, wow. But no, they're on opposite days. So help me and our audience thinking about the swim and how life got in the way for you and different temperatures and everything else. How do you approach then getting into the water for this 10K and this 15K? You have experience on your side, which is going to help tremendously. But what's your approach to getting into this event on day one specifically? Are you thinking I'm going to try to set a PR? Are you thinking I'm going to enjoy myself? Like, what are your thoughts?
I am at a place right now where my swimming is completely for joy. It is pure joy. Um, I have a slight eye on time because there are cutoffs involved in the longer swims. And that's really the big factor for me for the 15K is I didn't get with the lack of training. I probably will not make the cutoffs. In my mind, I can swim the 10K and the 15K, even though my training was not what I expected to be, because as we were talking about earlier, it's in your head, right? Endurance is in your head. So in my mind, I believe I can do it. Um, I am also realistic to know that that's what the R is for and be real, like realistic, is that I also know that I am not going to swim the 10K in 6 hours. I'm sorry, the 15K in 6 hours, which is it's a pretty aggressive it's a pretty aggressive cutoff, like 2 hours per 5K. There's a lot of swimmers who are going to breeze right by. There's, oh, that's easy, but in a longer distance I'm not a super slow swimmer, but I'm not a super fast swimmer. I have one pace I can go all day. But so for me, I know that 15K cutoff times are going to be a factor. So I actually told myself, I had a little sit down with myself, and I'm starting to plan. I said, oh, well, what are my expectations for the race? Very confident that I can do the 10K. And the 15K, I actually tried to change to the 5K because I said in my mind, I said, I don't want to be worrying about a cutoff. That for me personally, that's something that has caused some stress in the last couple of years. And stress doesn't help your training. And so, I last year I did a 25K race and I got pulled with an hour to go because I wasn't going to make the 2 miles. And I knew that I could swim 2 more miles, just not in the hour that was left.
Right.
And I left feeling very proud of my accomplishment, very disappointed that I didn't have the chance to finish that swim. And you sign up for a race, you have to follow their rules. That's the bottom line. But I was at a point where I said, I really wish I didn't sign up for the race. If I just went with my friend and her paddleboard, like I could have done it and I could have had 2 more hours, or
Right.
I almost I'm too much of a rule follower. Now I'm like, oh, I should have just said to them, I don't care about the race. I'm just going to keep going. It's like, and you can't do that. Like they have
Yeah.
permits and,
Safety
you know,
precautions and everything.
yeah, you need to be respectful of you sign up for a race. You have to follow follow their rules, whether you agree or disagree with them. You can have a conversation later, if you disagree, but, um, so for me that was just too stressful,
Yeah.
and I said I don't want to take away from the enjoyment I get out of swimming by focusing on how stressful it is to meet cutoffs and be fast,
Yeah.
because I could spend all that time doing speed work in the pool. I don't want to, and because the bottom line is that's not where I am right now. Like I did that for a while, my Ironman swim, I did an hour and 10 minutes. Like that's pretty fast. Now a 2.4 mile swim takes me like an hour and 40-ish. That's a big difference. I mean,
Yeah.
and every day I'm like, if I could still swim that fast, I would spend so much less time training. It just I would just need less time to do it. But that's not where I'm at, you
And I
know?
love that. I love that statement. That's not where I'm at. And I want more athletes to hear that phrase, like, do the thing based on where you're at. Like
Yep.
oftentimes we'll have conversations and I'll just say, run the mile that you're in, right? And
Yeah.
it's essentially the same thing. By the way, 6 hours, I'm doing the math in my head. I don't have a calculator, but that's a 40-minute per mile, actually less
That's
time.
40 minutes a mile. Yeah, it's slightly less than 40 minutes a mile.
Slightly less than 40 minutes a mile, which is fast, right? Like, that's fast when you start getting towards the end of a race, right? Because you're more tired. And so that is a really tight cutoff. So I understand the
Yeah.
thought process of, I just don't want to deal with the stress of it, right? I just don't want to deal with the stress of bumping up against cutoffs and dealing with that scenario again. So I'm with you on that. And thank you for pointing that out, because I think people need to understand that you don't have to do certain things. Like, again, just because, Steve in Sarasota, Florida is doing it doesn't mean that you have to do it. If it's not where you're at, wait,
Yeah.
go back to the training board, figure it out. Like, if you want to race, to your point, the 5K, go for it. Like, you don't have to do these things. You're not beholden to any of those things. So I really appreciate you pointing that out, because I think oftentimes in this world of social media, we have an article on our site called "The Comparison is the Thief of Joy." You'll see it everywhere, and yet it's happening. Like, every day you open up Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Threads, you're seeing somebody's best of. What you're not seeing is this contemplation of whether or not you want to go from a 15K to a 5K, right? Or do I even want to race a distance anymore, and things like that. And so I think it's important that people hear this side of it too, because you don't have to do these things. If to your point, if you wanted to go swim 25K, go for it, right? Get your kayaker out there and have fun.
Yeah.
Which just reminded me, I was on Threads earlier today with JJ Jameson, and she is going to be swimming in Istanbul, Turkey, doing a couple of different swims. And I didn't know anything about them. And I asked if she would have kayak support, and she said not at these events. So for you at Swim to the Moon on a 15K or even the 10K, will you have kayak support? Is that something that's available to you?
So I will not. A lot of marathon swims, if you do a solo swim, you will generally have a kayaker or a boat support. When you do it more in a larger event like Swim to the Moon, they will have kayaks there, but not on a one-to-one basis.
Okay.
So, and they also will have they have aid stations,
Oh, good. I was going to
that
ask about that.
they'll have set up in the water. They will I don't think they're gonna look like I don't know if you watch the marathon swim, in the Olympics, but
With
that
the fishing pole?
yeah, yeah, that they, like, put the stuff out of they put the feeds is what they
Yeah.
call it. It won't be like that. I mean, I think you just I haven't done this event, before. Actually, I did it virtually during the pandemic, because when I did my first 10K, that's another thing that's interesting is people are like, oh, well, it's official or it counts. Dude, if you swim a 10K, it counts. Like, if you're not on the official Marathon Swimming Federation list of people who did a 10K, does it really change the fact that you swam it? In my opinion, no. I recognize that for some people, it's very important to have that marked as an official swim. And if that's important to you, then by all means, follow all the exact rules and make sure that you get that done for you. But for other people who, maybe they are swimming the 10K, but they're going to stand up and take their feed instead of worry about floating on your back. Dude, you swam 10K, you swam 10 miles, whatever it was, it counts. Like it counts. If it counts in your heart, this is my opinion. If it counts in your heart, it counts. And that's what the most important thing is. You did it. Go out there and do it for yourself.
We
That's
don't live that far from the beach here in LA, and I see people walking into the water, and they're going swimming. These are not people that are going to be frolicking in the ocean. They're going swimming, and they come back out of the water, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours later. So they swam far.
Yep.
I highly doubt they're going to some website to report that they just swam, a 5K or a 10K in the ocean, right? There's probably more people who have done those things without reporting than there are people who have done them with reporting.
Yep.
So yeah, relish in your accomplishments, cheer yourself loudly, be proud of it all, because it is an accomplishment. It takes a lot to get through all of these different things. And I have an article on our website at runtrimag.com that these sports are hard. Like
Yeah.
these things are hard to do. It's hard to run, it's hard to swim, it's hard to bike, it's hard to do all three of them in one fell swoop. It's hard to do a 5K, it's hard to do a 100 miler, it's hard to do an Ironman. Like all of these things are hard. And if you do them, pat yourself on the back, celebrate your victory, regardless of whether or not you thought it was fast or not. Like celebrate it because it's an accomplishment, and that'll carry over into other aspects of your life as well.
Oh,
We're about 40 minutes. I'm
so
sorry.
I was gonna say, and it doesn't have to be long either. Like you mentioned in the intro, ice swimming. I was like, that's a 4-minute event. Like you swim in 200 meters in a lake, in a pool that's cut out of a frozen lake. It's not very long, but
4 minutes in that water is going to be very long.
that is, people often think that endurance means you have to go longer and longer and longer. Like enduring 4 minutes in that temperature water is serious. Yeah, I just saw someone on Threads yesterday who was saying, "Oh, I can't believe someone posted their ice plunge on Threads. I mean, they're not even moving." Like that's a serious part of training for ice swimming.
Yeah.
So, I understand maybe that person doesn't understand that. And that's too bad that they're judging someone without knowing. But that's an important part of training if you're going to ice swim, that you have to do those cold plunges for an extended period of time. The same way you do your intervals for running or, single leg drills on a bike, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
So,
going to altitude to run if you have an altitude race,
yeah,
or if you're
yeah,
doing bad water, you're sitting in a sauna and a sweatsuit, right? You're doing the adaptation component of training
yeah,
in the scenario in which you have, which is another thing, right? Do what you can with what you have.
that's right.
And sometimes that dictates a lot of different things for athletes in general. Adina, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to jump into our rapid fire food questions here. But before we do, tell the audience again where they can find you, as well as where they can find your book, Forward is a Pace.
So forwardisapace.book.com, or you can go right on to Amazon in any country. And otherwise, I like to hang out a lot on Facebook and on Instagram. It's Adina O'Neill Real Fitness. And my website is teambereal.com. So you can check out the events that we're doing. We're actually starting a September streak. It doesn't mean that you have to run around with no clothes on. We're just, 3 years ago, I started walking 1 mile a day, and I'm up to like over 1,000 days that I've walked a mile. So it's little things that add up. But go to teambereal.com. There's plenty of resources. If you need some help getting in and out of your wetsuit, that's one of the most popular videos that I've got up there. Or meet the team, or just shoot me a message. I always love to chat and hear whatever your goals are.
Awesome. So we'll get into our rapid fire food questions, and I mentioned in the pre-show meeting that I might have to change some of these questions up, considering you've been on a handful of our shows before. So I'm not going to ask you about pineapple on pizza, but I'm going to ask you about this. You can have one type of slice of pizza for the rest of your life. What are you having? Is there a topping? Are you going plain? What are you going to have on your pizza that you can only eat for the rest of your life? You can't change it up.
A classic plain.
Nice. You don't
Classic.
need more than that.
No.
You
I hesitated on like the white pizza with like spinach and garlic, because like that's really good too. But
really good.
yeah, classic plain. That's a close second. I had to give it a little shout out. But classic plain, you cannot beat classic plain.
If they put like a electronic strap on my ankle and shock me if I ordered the white pizza with garlic and spinach, I might endure the shocking just to have that slice, even though I agreed to only eat plain cheese for the rest of my life.
Yeah. That's a good one.
On Sunday, we went to the pool. We're checking in, and the person checking us in had a sandwich. It was a sub, and so hoagie, sub, Dagwood, whatever you want to call it.
Grinder. That's what they call them.
Grinder, yes.
Grinders.
It looked
Learn
so
that.
good. So if you're going to order a sub or a grinder or a Dagwood, what are you getting on that sandwich?
The first where do they call them Dagwoods? I've never heard of that.
It's an old school term. Like,
Oh,
I
okay.
seriously doubt anybody refers to them other than me, the old guy who keeps remembering that that's what it's called.
Ham and provolone.
Straight up, no lettuce, no oil and vinegar, no tomatoes.
Yeah, no, I don't like tomatoes. They're sploogy. Is how I define them. And I'm not a big condiment person. I hate ketchup. Don't like mayonnaise, mustard on a hot dog, but oil and vinegar, no. Just
I'm
ham,
going,
provolone, and I would actually prefer an onion roll over a sub roll.
oh, interesting. The onion roll. Onion roll was part of the Food Fight Friday last week in terms
Oh,
of
I like that
choices.
one.
Onion roll was up there. For me, I'm going hot vegan hot Italian sausage with charred broccolini and provolone with sun-dried tomatoes. Um, that to me would be the sandwich I could eat for the rest of my life
Yeah.
without any hesitation. Pancakes. Are you a pancake eater?
Oh yeah.
Are you going blueberries? Are you going chocolate chip? Are you going plain? Well, maybe bananas. Hold on, maybe bananas.
No, most first and foremost, I'd go plain. I'm actually a pretty plain eater. Like I like the classics, but there is the restaurant that we go to a lot after our swim. It's called Toast, and they make pancake tacos, which you might enjoy because I know you like a
Ooh,
taco. So they take the pancake and then they put stuff inside, and you
yes,
can
sign
eat it
me
like
up.
a taco. And they have a cannoli one.
Oh,
It's got like cannoli cream and little chocolate chips and peas.
oh. To this day, Lori raves about the best cannoli she ever had, which was with you when we went out in the north end of Boston.
Yeah, my
My my pride took a little hit, being that New York City cannoli was no longer the number one cannoli.
yeah,
But hey, it is what it is.
yeah.
Um, so, are you going if you're a plain person? Are you going butter? Are you going maple syrup? Are you going butter and maple syrup, or just give me the pancake?
No, but butter and maple syrup. Butter and maple syrup. You don't stinge on the butter. Don't stinge
Right?
on the butter.
Yeah. Lori laughs at me because the first time we were in Manhattan, I'm a huge coffee cart guy. Like, I love the coffee cart guy because, first of all, it tastes like trash. It's the worst coffee you've ever had, but it's New York City trash coffee, so it's fantastic to me. And the buttered roll. But the buttered roll is not like spread. It's
No.
just a hunk of butter in the middle of the roll. And like every bite is just this hunk of butter. It's fantastic.
But
And you get it for like $2.99.
yeah. You have to take the like if you get a stack of pancakes, right? You have the pancake and then the butter. You have to put butter
Yes.
on each, pancake, butter, pancake, butter, pancake, butter. Like,
So when you cut your pancakes, are you like cutting all of them all at the same, once, or are you cutting by each bite you're about to take?
oh, I cut it bite by bite.
Are you making triangles? Or are you making squares?
Well, it's tough because pancakes are circles.
Yeah, so
So
you can cut triangles.
you like, well, the first cut can't be a triangle or a square because it's got a rounded edge. You might have
Well,
like
yeah, by
a
definition, it can't be a
circle.
triangle. It could be
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Trivial Pursuit piece.
A Trivial Pursuit piece. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I've never paid attention to.
Now you've got
Now
homework.
next time I have pancakes, Jason's gonna be in my head. Are you making
This
fun?
MFer, I just want to enjoy my pancakes. Now look at this.
I'll tag you. I'll tag you the next time I have some pancakes. Here we go, Jason. We're cutting them in triangles.
We talked about Rose Scoville, who's doing Swim to the Moon in the pre-show as well, and she posted a picture of vegan ice cream on Threads earlier today, and I was like, man, that looks so good. She's like, I took this picture with you in mind, and I love the idea that we're Run Try Bike and myself are moving away from like human interest stories and more into like, I remember this dude likes this food. Fantastic.
Food connects people.
It does.
You think about, especially in America, like all the holidays, you sit down and you have a meal. So I think that makes complete sense.
All right,
Yeah.
so let's stick with breakfast for a moment. Pancakes,
Yeah.
waffles, or French toast?
Well, if you have ever had my husband's French toast, you would say French toast, hands down, every day and twice on Sunday, which is
What kind of
usually
bread is he using?
brioche.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was also on our Food Fight Friday a
Mm.
couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago of choices from buns. This was for hamburgers, but yes,
Yeah.
that's a great choice
Yeah.
for
Um,
breakfast.
Now, and the best part about Mark's French toast is that we'll usually get, if the kids are home, we get 2 loaves because you need to have leftovers. And then you take the leftover French toast if it's bike riding season, and you get some. I like the what is it, Justin's hazelnut spread. Like
Yeah,
you can use Nutella, but the Justin's hazelnut spread
it's a little
is
thicker.
is a little thicker.
Yeah.
So you put a layer of that on the French toast, you fold it up, put a little plastic bag in your jersey pocket. You ride for about an hour. So now it's a little melty and warm. You pull that out. Like every time I've done it, people are like, "What are you eating?" I was like, Mark's French toast with,
It's your personalized Uncrustable, and
yeah.
Pretty Neat
Oh,
Performance. John is on the was on earlier, and he loves Uncrustable, so I'm gonna have to pass that along to him if he's left the show.
oh, yeah. So, so good. So, so good.
I mean, I know it's like 100 degrees in a lot of places. It's hot in a lot of places, but I have seen the Halloween candy already being
I do
displayed in the grocery
too.
stores, which tells me fall is around the corner.
Yeah.
So, pumpkin spice or apple cider?
Neither.
Neither. What are you
No.
what are you warming yourself up with in the winter?
Well, first of all, I have a very distorted sense of temperature. I don't get very cold. The only time I really drink hot beverages is after cold swims, and that's I'll have tea, but usually hot chocolate.
Nice.
Yeah,
Are you putting whipped cream on the top of that hot chocolate or just straight hot chocolate?
whipped cream.
Nice.
Yep, and at toast they put they'll put chocolate or butterscotch on it for me. They're the best. They hook me up. Yeah. I literally like that's why I had the book signing outside their restaurant because I like go there all the time in the winter. We come in with our like parkas and we're all like, oh, we need hot chocolate. And my friends getting coffee. We're like, we're so cold. And they're like, what's wrong with you? Like, oh, we were just out for a swim. They're like,
I know it's not the same because we're in California, but speaking of parkas, like I'm in the process of getting some from Blue 70 because we went swimming the other day at 6 a.m. here and I was cold when I got out of the water. And so I know with fall and winter coming up and we can swim all year round here,
yeah,
definitely going to need the parka.
yeah,
Okay. Chocolate chip cookie or oatmeal raisin cookie?
chocolate chip.
That's a bad answer, but okay.
No hesitation, chocolate chip. And although when we were kids, we used to make this is a little, it sounds a little sexist, but it's just because my brothers were older, so they would go shovel the driveway with my dad, and my mom and my sister and I would make the paychecks, we called them, but those were oatmeal with butterscotch chips.
Oh, wow. Fancy.
Oatmeal with butterscotch chips, the official Leschnauer paycheck.
Two more. I love it. Two more food questions.
Yeah.
You can only eat one flavor for the rest of your life, savory or sweet. Which are you going with?
I used to be a total sweet person, and I definitely need sweet, but I'm like addicted to French fries lately. I can't imagine my life without French fries at the moment. Wow, I don't. That's a really hard one. That's a really hard one. But I also couldn't imagine like life without like ice cream or hot chocolate. Like
That's hard, right? Yeah.
like how do you like pizza, ice cream? Like I don't know, and no Peeps for the rest of my life. You know I had to bring it up. You knew I had to. Yeah,
You'd have to somehow convince the manufacturer to make a savory peep if you
favorite.
went that route,
Oh,
like a
yeah.
Thanksgiving Day peep, the cranberry and stuffing flavor.
Oh, oh, yeah.
Last one for you. Brownies are about to come out of the oven. They smell fantastic. Are you going edge or are you going center for the ooey gooey?
Well, if they're cooked right, you've got the corner piece that has the edge, but it's still a little gooey. Or you just cut it big enough so you've got the edge and the gooey. Yeah, there's ways around it. There's ways around anything. So, but no, I like the crunch of the edge with the gooey. It's like the lava cake, right?
Yes.
That's where you like open it up
Yep.
and it all goos out from the center.
Are
Yeah.
you a person that will put nuts on their brownies or no nuts?
No, I like nuts by themselves. I
I
don't I don't like them in things so much.
Are you a brownie a la mode person?
Oh,
What's the flavor of ice cream that's going on top of your brownie?
yeah. Usually classic vanilla. There's a theme here with the classics. Sometimes a mint chocolate chip.
Oh, that's a mix up there. Very rarely
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Mint and chocolate is like
It's fantastic.
absolutely.
It's the best,
Yeah,
hands
yeah,
down.
yeah.
There was a guy walking out of the grocery store. This was about 2 or 3 months ago, and I walked out behind him, and I said it loud enough for him to hear. I said, "Not all heroes wear capes." And he turned around to look at me like, "What are you talking about?" And I looked at his hands. He had in one hand he had mint chocolate gelato, and in the other hand he had coffee chip gelato. And I said, "You walked into this grocery store and walked out with 2 pints of ice cream, dude. You are a hero either to yourself or to somebody else." Like,
Absolutely.
you were not going shopping for, peppers and onions. Like, you had a mission and you fulfilled it. You are a hero.
I'm so on board with that. So on board with that.
And so, speaking of coffee chip, this is my secret tip for brownies a la mode. So, get a coffee cup, put a chunk of brownie in the bottom, put a scoop or two or three or four or five, how many ever you want, of coffee ice cream. And you'll have a mocha right away. But as it melts, you end up with like this chocolate affogato that
Mm.
is phenomenal and it cannot be beat no matter where you go. So that's my advice for people who love brownies and love them a la mode, but maybe you get a little tired of vanilla
Yeah.
ice cream. Um, Use coffee if you like coffee,
Yeah,
obviously.
I'm not a coffee drinker, but I will pass that along to my husband. He does
There
like
you go.
coffee. Yeah.
Mark, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Exchange the idea for the French toast this weekend.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I'll hook him up with a brownie with a coffee.
There you go. Adina, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, go check out the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network wherever you get your podcast. This show will be up on our network, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, but it will be on the runtrymag.com website on Friday, as well as on our YouTube channel in case you missed any of the show. Adina, thank you so much. I know it's late on the East Coast. Have a great night.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. Thanks for having me, Jason.